Well, good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Mountaineer Locker Room Then and Now. Greg Chris with Frank Fear and others to join. Frank, man, I'm happy to be here tonight. I'm excited about this past weekend, still riding high on that win. And I know Mountaineer fans have come back to life.
Boy, biggest crowd in years there. The excitement was obvious. It was a huge program win. As we said in the post game show, all the applause and anticipation for Rich Rod coming back that delivered. That was a Rich Rod game, and we did it. And now we're on to Kansas. We'll talk about that tonight.
Yep. And, even, I'm a big talk show watcher on TV, and I watch the Dan Levichard show every day, and much to my wife's chagrin. But was watching yesterday, and they said that they have a girl on the show that they send to college campuses every weekend, and she's in the parking lot and then goes to the game and then reports back, how what the event was like. And uh, she had a lot of choice words, but anyway, she was in Morgantown Saturday, and they were on yesterday. They showed her interviews up there, and they have a sponsor called Hampton Farms Peanuts on the show, and they give a nuttiest fan of the week. And their nuttiest fan of the week was a kid from West Virginia because she was out in the parking lot talking to all of them. Of course, about 80% of the dialogue was, you know what, after Sweet Caroline, that was the dialogue, and that was repeated on the Levitard show about 20 times. So it was pretty funny. But yeah, a little recognition there. But yeah, bounce back performance. I'm still convinced that Ohio is a good football team, and we just weren't ready. I think this game showed that what we can be. If we execute and do the things they've been taught to do. And I'll tell you something else too. I think our defense is pretty daggone good, and I think the schemes and the blitzes and things packages that we're using have been very effective, and I thought they were Saturday. And as long as your defense can hold teams down, you got a chance. And that's what happened Saturday. Our offense was just good enough. The defense played well, and good bounce back win for us. But the thing is, like you said, it don't get any easier. And this coming week's not going to be a easy one by any stretch. In fact, I think we're huge underdogs.
Oh, yeah, I think the last time I looked, the line was like 13 and a half points, which
Yeah.
I have a tough time calculating, but we'll talk about that later. But one of the things that you said about the defense, when was the last time that West Virginia, after 3 games, was in the top 50? We're 34th,
Yeah.
according to the NCAA stats, in terms of points given up per game. And it would have been a lot higher if Pitt hadn't come back in the second half the way they did. So
Yeah.
uh,
Yeah.
it's pointing in the right direction. We have a big back. We have a scat back for replacements for the guys that were lost in the Ohio game. And so let's just go to Kansas, go to Lawrence, and get one.
Yeah, and I'm anxious to see how if Edwards keeps up, the pace that he set Saturday. Man alive, that guy came in and did a number on Pitt in the running game, and that was encouraging. I know we had talked several times about the running back room and how we understood that it was, packed with good players, and we were hoping to see that, and we didn't really see it in the Ohio game, but I think we saw it Saturday in the Pitt game, and I hope that can continue. So that was one of the, to me, one of the bright spots. And several bright spots, but that was one of the more eye-opening things that we witnessed, as well as the offensive line play. I thought first half they struggled a little bit, but they did okay. They did better, much better for sure. And then the second half, I thought they were great. And I know you usually look at the grades and that sort of thing, but I felt like that they, especially the second half, the offensive line was a big bright spot as well.
Yeah, agreed. Darren, if you can throw up the Pro Football Focus grades from the Pitt game, we that just follow up on what Greg is talking about. And not surprisingly, Edwards, you'll see, is way up there. The offensive, Ty Edwards was the highest graded out And Smith Brown, wide receiver, we hadn't heard much about. I think he got hurt after that long catch, and he was number two. Gallagher, and then Fox. So what you have there is the top grades are the offensive weapons, running
Yeah.
back and three wide receivers, and the lowest.
Yeah.
No surprising to have Fox there, etc. And then on the defense side, Coates is really everybody was talking about Coates. He
Yeah.
did a really good job, and it's and then the lowest. That's a little bit disconcerting because you would think that Asani Redwood would be doing higher, and Siders played well in the game against Robert Morris, and so we've got to. It played better, and we're going to need that because you got a
Yeah.
great quarterback over at Kansas, and he looks like he has rebounded from a very poor 2024.
Yeah. Yeah. And you have to worry about that mobile quarterback. We struggled a little bit of that with Ohio. But again, if you think back to the Ohio game, we didn't contain him real well, but um, we were still holding them, to 17 points. So, it worries you that they got that mobile quarterback if they can move the ball like Ohio did and score on those drives. That's a little worrying, a little bit worrisome, and uh, hopefully we'll do a little better job of keeping him back there and making him throw. I felt like going into the Pitt game that even though Holstein could run a little bit and nowhere near like Navarro could, and I felt like if we can make him throw it, then we were going to be a lot better off, and we did that, and we got pressure on him. So that's what we got to do with the Kansas quarterback is, keep some pressure on him and keep him contained in that pocket and make him throw the ball. Because he can do it with his legs now. He can move, so hopefully we can do that. And on an encouraging note, I think one of the defensive players that was involved in the lawsuit with the NCAA is eligible to play this weekend. He's the defensive end that I can't remember his name right now, but he was one of the guys that had to sue for his eligibility. But I did see in Coach Rich Rod's presser that he would be eligible to play, and he was going to get to play his first game Saturday. So that's good that we get a little bit of help on that defensive line, and hopefully we go in there and do a number.
Great, yeah, I agree. that's what that's what we want. We want to keep this going, and obviously it would be a phenomenal win because it gets tougher, as you mentioned. Utah.
Oh yeah.
The week after that, Utah looks. They had a bad year last year. I still remember that Utah BYU game. That was a big game for them. Obviously, BYU was going really full guns last year until the very end. And I don't know how BYU, well, I know how they stole the game, but shouldn't say stole, but they came out of nowhere to have a late drive. When in fact, I thought the quarterback was tackled in the end zone. The referees reversed their decision on that, and they came down and won the game, and Utah just couldn't win. String of bad luck. But next week, that's going to be a big game. Following week, rather, it's going to be a big game against Utah.
Yeah, I think these next 2 weeks are hugely important, and if we can somehow win these 2 games, we're realistically right in the mix there for the Big 12 because a lot of those teams are struggling. A couple of them are doing pretty well, but we would be right in the conversation. We win these next 2 because we have some folks on there then that we probably should beat down the road. Now you should probably never say that, but realistically, teams that you definitely have a great chance of beating. I'll say it that way. So really, we could be in the driver's seat. That'd be exciting if we could somehow pull these next 2 out.
Absolutely, you're right on target.
I was
going to say we should make it. No, I was going to say we should make a tape of what you said and send it to all the players.
There you go. And sorry to interrupt you there, but again, when you look at the roster and what's going on with the team, you don't want to get the expectations through the roof, and again, like they were before the season started, and you lose a game and everybody is ready to fire the coach and players stink, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. It takes time to blend all these players and to get that chemistry and to get them playing together. And I keep referencing that picture of the offensive linemen. When there were three of them in the pass protecting in the front, and there was a defensive end coming in behind them. None of them ever saw him. Those were things that take time to fix and work out. And you hope that folks don't think we're going to run the table from this point on. I don't think we'll do that. I think we have a good chance to win games and a lot of games. I just hope that the expectations don't soar through the roof. And if we'd happen to lose Saturday, then the whole world's falling in on us. So hopefully that doesn't happen. I think somebody, Mickey or somebody else got called to the emergency room. I'm not sure. Speaking of Mickey, that's I'm having to use my phone. You guys know I'm having some laptop issues, so I'm on my phone, and it's a whole different look than what it is when I use my laptop. And everybody's picture is really small, so I can't tell who's on screen and who's not. I don't think Mickey's on there yet, so
No,
let's go.
he's there.
Okay,
Yeah.
Mickey, he is on the
One,
Yeah,
screen. Okay, I can see Mickey.
there
He's
he
in a
is.
box.
yeah.
He's
There
got
you
his
go, Greg.
Yeah, he's got his
Yeah,
own box on my phone. All I can see is there. I see, but
yeah.
yeah, don't have good graphics here with this little phone. It's not the not the big screen I'm used to. But anyway, Mickey, welcome in, and as always, we'd like to get your take on what went down Saturday.
Well, what a great win for the Mountaineers, huh? I mean, they call it the backyard brawl for a reason, guys, and you can throw out the records. I know it's a cliche, but it was certainly true last Saturday. One of my best parts in looking back at last week was looking at some of those Holstein interviews with stitches on his nose and he's got cotton up one nostril. I mean, we're just talking mud in your face. Somebody punched me in the bottom of the pile. I mean, we're talking true football from an offensive lineman's perspective. Some of the things that happens, in the pits while you're out there playing. But I have no doubt that the Mountaineers physically, we just whipped those guys.
Yeah,
No doubt about it. And I loved Rich Rod's comments in jest about filling up all the local hospitals in Pittsburgh. They really, at the coach's direction, I believe, took those dives in order to
no, yeah,
slow down the momentum. I think we ran 97 plays on Saturday, which is just a torrid pace to be
yep,
going at. And if we can keep that kind of momentum up, if we can keep up that kind of pace and control the time on the clock, I think is going to be the key as we enter the Big 12 matchups that we're in. We're going to have long, steady drives. I think we had 25 first downs last Saturday also, which is
yep,
just amazing for an offensive unit. So offensively, no question we were right there. To your point, Greg, the defense, I think, can play with just about anybody that they come across, thanks to our new defensive coordinator, his schemes, his knowledge, his ingenuity. I really like the fact that he opened up the game with a three-man front, which he had not played in the first two games against Robert Morris or Ohio. So that caught Pitt, I think, flat-footed completely in the first half. They had to adjust the defensive schemes that he was running. But what a great win for the Mountaineers. I mean, full house, going from a daylight game to, early evening, nighttime game. Kids just going wild in crowds. And we're talking throwback WVU football. And the best part of all goes back to the 60s era. I guess a little bit later, they're talking about Mountaineer locker room then and now. There were a few couches burned once again, which had not happened in Morgantown for years and years. So, what a great win. We just got to come down off that cloud now. And I think Rich Rod will do a good job of putting that game in the past and getting ready to play Kansas this week.
Yeah, and you mentioned almost 100 plays on offense, 25 first downs. That is, I've heard him, Rich Rod, many times in his press conference say that's their goal. They want to run at least 100 plays and they want to get at least 25 first downs. So, all that spot on. Talking about those guys, faking the injuries, and we can talk about this another time, but, Frank, Miggy, I think that there's going to have to be a rule adjustment there on those things. And there's no, I mean, it's just kind of like the tush push in the NFL. When you do something well and other teams don't know how to stop it, then they start circumventing the rules and trying to get things banned, et cetera, et cetera. And this is one way that they want to try to slow down the momentum of the offense, which is not fair in my opinion. And the rule was there for a reason, but that's not the reason they're using using that. And I believe that a simple change would be that if somebody goes down with an injury such as that, they have to sit out the series. Either the next series or whatever series they're in, and then the next one, and then substitution wise. You can only substitute for that player. You can't do a wholesale substitution until a player or two later. And I think that would be a simple change to that rule that would eliminate a lot of this. It may not stop it completely, but it would eliminate some of it. And the bad thing is it was just so obvious. I mean, it wasn't like these guys were getting hit. It's like they'd get up after a play and start walking down the sideline, and all of a sudden they'd fall and lay on the ground for 5 minutes and then go off laughing with their coach. It's pretty obvious what was going on. So I really think that they're going to have to look at the rules on this and maybe make some adjustments to it. And like I said, we can talk about that later on. We got other things to talk about tonight, so we can deal with that at another point in time. And Darren, again, we'll get ready to bring our guest in. Tickled to death to bring this guy in. I was about the same age, watched him play, and I always loved watching him play. Great linebacker for WVU. And Darren, I think, do you have the graphic of him? I think I saw you put it up at the beginning. But anyway, it's Dave Preston, and we'll get Mr. Preston in as soon as. And again, I can't see the screen, so I don't know when he's there and when he's not. So you guys can clue me in. All right, I saw a new screen pop up, so I'm assuming that's him.
So I like the conversation. Anytime we're talking about defense, because I was a defensive player, I enjoy talking about defense. We're going to go down a trip down memory lane here a little bit. I mean, because I was the first recruiting class from Coach Nealon.
Yep.
John Denver was there in the opener.
Absolutely.
Country roads. There's a lot of I played with a lot of great players. Oliver Luck, Robert Alexander, Dennis.
Greg Chris was there with John Denver as well.
Yeah. Well, I think the Thursday before we played, we were practicing on the field for the first time because the locker room wasn't even done. It was
right.
We had like plywood lockers, but Governor Rockefeller landed on the 50-yard line in his helicopter and got out and talked to us. So it was pretty impressive. Yeah. But I was in Morgantown for quite a while because I played in 1980 and we were 6-6. But the last game of the season, I hurt my knee and I was out the entire 81 season when we beat Florida in the Peach Bowl. And I was there, but not in uniform. And then came back obviously in 1982. It was probably the hardest 2 days that we ever went through with Coach Nealon because we're getting ready to play Oklahoma in the opener in Norman. So,
yeah.
And we were in better shape than they were, let me tell you. But and there was a reason for it. But the Gator Bowl played in that with against Florida State didn't work out so well, but then played in the Hall of Fame Bowl against Kentucky, and we won that one. And then the TCU game, the Blue Bonnet Bowl game, we won that one as well. So I was literally as a player 4 out of 5 years I was there playing and got to play with my roommate was Steve Newberry, Paul Woodside was there, Darryl Talley was there, Ron Wolfley and I were co-captains in '84. a lot of good things. I was there in 85 and 86 season because I was a graduate assistant with Coach Nealon, and Rich was there as well as a volunteer coach, and he came in from 91 to 94, or I'm sorry, from 81 to 84. So Rich, I know Rich. I have Rich on my phone, so we can talk. And I actually went to Granttown and got my first white-tailed deer ever. Rich's parents farmed in Granttown. Rich used to tease me and says, "You shot the biggest deer that we have ever had in the mountains." But it was a lot of fun. So I had, it was so pleasurable, and the memories are so deep and so long because I was there for so long. I mean, if you talk about the differences between now and then, when I was a freshman playing, I knew everybody on the roster that was 3 grades ahead of me. And then when I was a senior, I knew everybody on the roster that was 3 years below me. Well, That doesn't happen today. It's considerably different. And I would say it's probably considerably different for the coaches too. And, spot the ball offense. I mean, I'm sure you're going to need some time to gel and make sure that works. And hopefully the offense really kicks in this next week and do some positive things. I love watching the defense though. Those guys can run, they can tackle, they can do. It's just fun to watch. So anyways, those, a lot of memories, a lot of teammates, a lot of coaches, Dennis Brown was my coach. Steve Dunlap was my coach. Mike Jacobs was critical in recruiting me. Coach Nealon actually recruited me first from Michigan when he was there working for Bo. And that's the first phone call I got. And then when he went to West Virginia, he called me. And the Big Ten, they thought I was probably a little too small. Coach Nealon gave me a shot, and forever grateful. So
you mentioned knowing these guys, knowing your teammates. When you're a senior, all the ones below you, and when you're a freshman, all the ones above you, knowing them all and how that's changed today. It's funny you said that. I was thinking about this Pitt game and listening to some of those players talk, and I got to thinking, probably 70% of these guys don't even know what the backyard brawl is all about, and I think that Rich did a great job of instilling in them what this game means to, West Virginians, the fans, what it means to the program, and they showed that. But I thought it was kind of ironic. I was thinking about it after the game was over. That a lot of those guys probably don't even realize what this rivalry is all about because they're all so new. And I have a friend, and Frank. I don't know if Frank's met him, but I've had him on my show before. He's a guy that is from Pittsburgh. He's a big Pitt fan. He and I used to teach and coach a little bit together. And I'd sent him. I just found a video of the Sweet Caroline song being sung, and I sent that video to him. And he messaged me back in a huff. I thought he may sound a little salty, but he wanted to know what it is, why West Virginia acts like they won the Super Bowl when they beat, in his words, a sorry-ass Pitt team. And I said, because we hate Pitt, and that's why. And if our team's not any good and we beat Pitt, it's even better. So, I think the players kind of have taken that on a little bit. But yeah, it's ironic that you talk about knowing these guys and how different it is today. What's we always talk about the NIL and the transfer portal. Where do you think that this college football thing is headed? We've discussed this ad nauseum on the show here, but we'd like to get people's input that played the game and knows the game. What's your thoughts on that?
Well, what I talked about in my experience, some of that is gone, and I'd like to see some of that come back and players making some commitments. I mean, they need, my opinion, there needs to be some rules, more rules and regulations around it. I mean, we don't want to become a semi-pro team that's, every year, or Rich does good this year and loses half of his players because they can go get some more money somewhere else.
Right.
That's just not that's not the college football I played or enjoyed and loved. There's so many. When we go back to a game, and I was at the opener, and I was supposed to be at the Pitt game, and I got tied up with something else and couldn't make the trip. But the opener, there's so many players and people and faces that and either played with or they were athletic trainers, doctors. You knew everybody, and everybody knew you. Okay, today it's a little, over. If you're there for 2 years or 3 years, that would be great. But the way the rules are right now and the way things go, it has to be tough, and you're teaching a spot the ball offense. If Hostetler or Oliver Luck or Kevin White was my senior year, Kevin White, he picked TCU apart in that game. But if we had to do the way they're doing, and you change programs every year, you're still a good athlete, but you're relearning the system that it does take some time. It's not just overnight type of thing.
Yeah, and I think we're seeing too. I watch a lot of college football. I watch games that don't matter to anyone but the fans that are there and me. And I watch a lot of these, and you kind of can see I think when you watch teams play who have tremendous athletes, but especially early in the season, really just go out and don't execute very well. They don't perform well. Take Notre Dame or even Georgia, somebody like that. And I think that's a sign of this new era. I think that's part of the issue with a lot of these teams because, by the end of the season, they'll be really good because they have the best athletes. But they're all great athletes, but it's got to take time. It's got to take time to learn. And, we've talked about possibly, this game Saturday, I think shows where my point could be true is that you regionalize these games, put them in divisions, regionalize the games. What TV network, would not want to have shown West Virginia and Pitt Saturday? What network would not have wanted that game on? And what college football fan would not have wanted to watch that game? I mean, it was a fantastic game. It was very exciting. The atmosphere was great. I don't know what anybody could want other than that. And I said if they would regionalize this thing, I think that, the money could be enormous, more enormous than it is, and there could be more equality for all the teams and programs involved. But it's going to take some time and some movement. Mickey, I'm going to let you if you want to jump in, and I'll let you ask a question or two there. And again, I'm on my phone, and if I seem distracted, I get any message that comes in or anything flashes up on my screen I can't see. So I freak out thinking I'm off the air. But anyway, Mickey, go ahead. I know you want to jump in and get some questions in for Dave.
Yeah, Dave, I had a couple questions for you. You mentioned that Oklahoma game, and I distinctly remember that game. If it's the one I'm thinking of, Jeff Hostetler was a quarterback, right? We were down 14-0 in the first quarter, and then we came back strong. Can you just talk a little bit about that game? I mean, that was one of the greatest all-time wins for Mountaineer fans, I believe.
Yeah, for sure. And you were probably being kind, 14-0 in the first quarter. I think it was 14-0 with 5 minutes ran off the clock. I mean, we made some changes. The defensive coaches made some changes. We were prepared, in what we wanted to do and where we were going to go if things got, because they ran the wishbone. I mean, you don't even hardly see the wishbone anymore. And they had Marcus Dupree, but he was only a freshman, and he played sparingly, but the guys in front of him were almost as good as he was. So we made some adjustments in how we were playing defense and the defenses that we were in, and we started to stifle them. Okay, and then it helps a ton though when Jeff Hostetler gets on the field and the offense gets on the field and hold the ball for a period of time, and we get to rest because it was 110 on the turf in Norman, and we were in shape as it was because of what Coach Nealon had us do during 2 days, but we were prepared and ready to play, and we knew it was going to be hot, and we had defenses to adjust to depending on what they were doing out of the wishbone. And they have some great athletes, but and Hostetler and the offense took control of the line of scrimmage and started moving the football and taking up some clock. So that also helped us. We got into like a one linebacker series. We were like 7-8 guys on the line. I mean, it was a, because they were basically running the option. You got to remember when I played, not like today. They threw the ball maybe 12 times a game. Well, they throw the ball today in today's game. They throw the 12 in 2 minutes. So it was a different, it was a run mostly kind of football game. And I guess the conditioning, what we were put through during 2 days paid off. The scheme that we had on defense, and just our athletes that we had on offense or on our offense with Hostetler leading the crew, really got us through. It was, and talk about when we got home. We're in Norman, Oklahoma, and then we get on the flight. We come home. We fly into Pittsburgh, I believe, and the buses were taking us from Pittsburgh back to the stadium. Then we were going back to the dorm. When we got to the stadium, we could hear on the they had CBs in the buses and so forth. There was like 12 to 14,000 people waiting for us at the stadium. I mean, when we pulled in the back of the stadium, and I know Rich has told this story on a couple of his news conferences as well, is the fans were just shaking their buses. Coach Nealon says, just get out, go back to the dorm. I'll see you tomorrow. On Sunday. And it was, there was a band playing on a trailer of a 18-wheeler. There was people everywhere waiting for us to get home. It was surreal, actually. It was like, wow, what is going on?
Hey, Mickey, I'm going to jump in here just for a second. He brought up a couple of memories for me as well, talking about that 82 game. I was a sophomore at Glenville at the time. I broke my bed in the dorm, and not out of excitement throwing it against the wall or anything, but me and my roommate were when Carlin Beck broke the long touchdown run, kind of iced the game. We started jumping up and down on the bed, and it collapsed with us. And that brought back a memory for me, as well as the fans at the stadium. It was only an hour and 10 minutes from Glenville to Morgantown, so where we were at. So we made that trip up, and then the last thing you mentioned, Marcus Dupree. He became a garbage man, and that's what he did for a living after his playing days in college wound up. Frank, you want to jump in? I know we've kind of neglected you. I don't want you to fall asleep back here. If you want to jump in and get a question or two in with Dave. I think you might be muted, Frank.
Yeah, you are, Frank.
Well, Mickey, I know you got another one ready to go. If you want to go ahead and talk with Dave some more, we'll get Frank back in here in just a minute once he gets his volume corrected.
Well, the other thing I was curious about, Dave, is what other signature wins can you recall during your 5 years there?
Yeah.
What were some of the other signature wins you were involved with there during your 5 years in Morgantown, and how did you do in those 4 bowl games?
Well, we lost the Florida State Gator Bowl in '82 to Florida State 31-12, not in the pouring rain in Jacksonville. But after that, we won the Florida game. I didn't play in that in '81, but played in the Hall of Fame Bowl, played in the Blue Bonnet Bowl, was the captain in the Blue Bonnet Bowl, and won both of those games against Kentucky and TCU. The other, besides beating Pitt, I think twice out of the 4 times that I played him, the first and second time I played him, though, they had Marino. Marino one time I had an interception dead to rights, and the ball, he threw it so hard it went right through my hands and broke the strings on my shoulder pad.
Huh.
And So I did have an interception against him, but it was a tip ball that Dennis Folks had taken out the tight end, and the ball went up in the air, and I got the interception. But so the Pitt games, the 2 that we won were very notable. Probably the biggest, and the 2 biggest ones was obviously Oklahoma and Norman, and then Penn State. My senior year, I'm the defensive captain in 1984, and we beat them at home, and that's the first time we've beat them since 1955. And you got to remember, we played them every year. We were in the Big East. We played Pitt, Penn State, Maryland, Virginia Tech, Boston College. Doug Flutie never beat us. So I don't know, you could talk memorable games. Every one of the Flutie games in Boston College was memorable. Boomer Esiason played for Maryland. It was like the era. I played during the era of quarterbacks that, you had Hostetler, well, first Luck, then Hostetler, then, you had Boomer Esiason at Maryland. You had Marino at Pitt. You had Blackledge at Penn State. You had I can't remember who was at Virginia Tech at the time, but it was like every team had a quarterback that went to the NFL. And and you knew who you were playing every year too, when you were in the Big East, and not just, Pitt was a huge rivalry, but we didn't much like Penn State either, or Boston College or Maryland as well. So, it was just an enjoyable time of my life in the early '80s in Morgantown.
Mickey mentioned that TCU game, the Blue Bonnet Bowl. You think back to that. TCU was a very prominent program and ranked pretty highly back then. They had an All-American running back. They were pretty daggone good, and the Mountaineers just went in there and mopped the floor with them, and that was to me a very memorable game, and brought a lot of attention to the program because, like I said, they were highly touted, and like I said, they had the All-American running back. I think his name was Kenneth Davis, maybe, I believe. But yeah, that was a memorable game as well for me, and I'm sure for Dave too.
Yes, it was. When we put him out of the game, I think Matt Smith hit him. He was another linebacker that I played with, and he was out of the game. But the key was our offensive scheme. I don't know what happened, but Kevin White was on fire, and we were throwing the ball all over the place.
Yep.
They didn't have any answer for that, and we always played good physical defense. When you had coaches like Coach Brown and Coach Kurlavich, and and those kinds of coaches, Coach Dunlap. I mean, you came to play. It was, Timmy Agee and I used to say, today and back in our day, we would have probably been thrown out for targeting every stinking game. because of the way we were taught to tackle, and if somebody was coming across the middle, they didn't want to come across the middle anymore. But that's the mentality that we played with all the time. So it's a little bit different today.
Yeah, I always think it's great watching that when you go back and watch videos of games back then, and you see you see some of the tackles, some of the hits, and then you see guys running down the field and diving at people's legs to block them, take their legs out from under them. All that stuff today is illegal. And I was thinking, man, this game has changed so much; it's unbelievable. Frank, did you get your volume straightened out, or do we know yet?
Yeah, I just realized we didn't pay our electric bill. And, they're getting pretty severe on this stuff. Just a couple of points. Dave, you're I'm learning a lot from Dave. Great points. I think one of the things about, playing those teams, the regional teams that Greg's talking about, you talked about, well, we lived through that. And that became sort of pressed into our brain that we would play Pitt, Syracuse. We would play Boston College, Virginia Tech, and Maryland. But if you didn't experience it, how can you miss it? And I think that's one of the issues is that it's just too bad that more people didn't have, and they couldn't have had a direct experience with those teams because we're so similar in a lot of ways. When you think about this, I grew up in Syracuse, New York, so the great games back and forth, that was enhanced by the fact that Ben Schwartzwalder played his college ball at West Virginia. He was a center. And so you'd go up there and, you'd probably end up in the hospital after those games. They were so big. One of the biggest teams, if not the biggest teams around in the 50s and 60s and 70s, and even into the 80s. And so, it's too bad that that's the way it is, because as great as the Big 12 is, we're playing a lot of Texas schools. How many fans are going to be able to go out to Kansas, watch the game this week? Utah is coming here, but it's you just have to adjust. It's just the way it is.
Right. I agree. Playing Syracuse did put me in the hospital actually because it was the last game of the season, and that's when I hurt my knee in 1980 and really didn't get to go home for Thanksgiving. But anyway, the experience playing in the Carrier Dome against Syracuse, one of the loudest places you could ever play. It was like playing a football game in a basketball stadium that was completely covered. And it was so loud in there. We had different cadences for the offense just because nobody could hear. Especially, if you got down towards the goal line that you were trying to go in at. But the Big East and those teams and playing those teams, you also got to know the players you were playing against. Mm-hmm. It's not, we had bulletin boards in the locker room, and if somebody was saying something about one of our players, it was posted in the locker room from the newspaper. But we knew who we were playing, and we knew them by name because we played them the year before or 2 years before. I agree on the regional stuff. The Big 12 is tough. It's tough. Plus, you got to travel all over the place. And the Big 12 was, it's speed oriented. And most football today is speed oriented, but except for maybe the Big 10 and certain aspects of it, they still like to grind it out. But the Big 12 is spread out quite a bit, and you got to travel a long ways. And to build those rivalries, it gets, because it's so far away, and like you said, the travel base of fans shrinks. But you got to. We went to Hawaii my freshman year. In Hawaii, there was a whole section of West Virginia fans. So the West Virginia fans travel, but when you have to do it week in and week out and every week, in the Big 12, it has to be exhausting and costly.
Yeah. Yeah, I was going to say we used to go to a lot of the away games. But again, we were going to Blacksburg and Pittsburgh and to Maryland and places like that. We weren't going to to Houston and Pittsburgh and
Right. One thing I would like to say one thing in when I was a graduate assistant, because it's a kind of a funny thing, but it was pretty cool. Is when I was a graduate assistant, I ran the scout team offense against the number one defense, and there was cards and everything, because we would change up the cards. Coach Brown or Coach Dunlap or somebody would, we would have all their plays and from films and this and that and the other. But when I was running the offense, my quarterbacks on the scout team offense was Major Harris and Brownie Nagel. So we gave our first team defense hell. If it was an option, Major was going in. If we were first involved, Brownie was going in. So it was when Brownie Nagel left and went to Louisville, I believe, because Major won the position next year. But it was comical and fun to run the scout team offense against the number one defense with those two guys. It was a lot of fun.
Frank, Mickey, one of y'all want to jump back in?
On that scout team that you mentioned, Dave, when I played back in the late 60s, 66 through 69, we had an affectionate term for the scout team. We referred to those guys as the Bombers or the Bomb Squad,
right?
Because their role in practice was to blow up, whatever the offensive plan. I played offensive tackle, and their role was to blow up whatever plan we were trying to implement on that particular day. Were the Bombers still around in the 80s, or did that go away?
Yeah, I can't remember the term that much, the Bombers, but we had, there was offensive and defensive scout teams and so forth. But the offensive scout team that I was basically coaching and running during practice had some eventual athletes that started and played for West Virginia that were outstanding, like Major Harris and so forth. So it was fun to watch them develop as well, because they had to go against the first team defense. So they got better in practice as well. So it was fun.
And from a just have one more
Frank,
quick,
go ahead.
one more quick question from a size perspective. Back again when I played, Dave, I was the biggest guy on the team playing offensive tackle at 227 pounds.
Right.
So I know you played a linebacker, 6 foot 225 in that era.
That's correct. Yep.
How big had the offensive linemen and defensive linemen that you were going up against, particularly those offensive linemen that were pulling guards coming after you, or on the slant blocking? How big were those guys in the mid 80s compared to the 60s?
In my era, when we played, because when we scrimmaged, we'd have a couple different scrimmages during 2 days and stuff like that, and it would be ones-on-ones for maybe a 10-play series, but that's it. But our offensive line, my senior year, I mean, there was Billy Legg was at center, Joswiak was at tackle. I mean, Kurt Keel was my roommate, and he was 6'6", 305 pounds. Joswiak was 6'5" and whatever he was, 3 something. Billy Legg. I mean, there wasn't anybody on the offensive line probably under 270. None of them. And our defensive tackles, David Grant played nose guard for us. He was a pretty big guy. Everybody got bigger and stronger, and Coach Nealon was an advocate of the weight room, and you watched guys just develop and get bigger and stronger. I came from Warren G. Harding High School in Warren, Ohio, and had a lot of, because I played Massillon and Canton and all those groups when I was in high school. It was pretty much instilled, the weight room and getting stronger and faster and better. Today's game, they're strong, don't get me wrong, but they can all run. Everybody can really, really run. I mean, the linebackers today aren't 6'2", 225, 230. They're 6'4". They're more like a strong safety type of body type. They can run and run people down, and also take on the guard if he's coming out. So it's a little bit of a different. Like I said, they only threw the ball 12 times maybe during a game. Well, now it's, you got to have guys back there at all the linebacker positions that can run and cover as well. So it's a little bit different from a scheme standpoint for sure.
Thanks.
Mm-hmm.
Dave, I want to ask you, and Frank, I'm sorry again to exclude you here, but I want to ask Dave about his life after football, after he graduated from WU. Tell us what went on in your life from that point on.
Well, okay, and it's been wonderful. I was a graduate assistant, got my master's degree. I actually was going, I thought about coaching, in the 80s. I don't know, there was a lot of coaches spent a lot of time away from home, a lot of time, and they still do. I'm sure they still do. I was getting married in October after my second year as a graduate assistant, and after I got my master's degree. And I went right into business. Got married. About 4 or 5 years later, we had our first child, and I have a son, Matthew, and a daughter, Morgan. Matt's in his 30s. Morgan just turned 30. I'm the grandpa for the first time, for the very first time, about 13 weeks into it. That's different and enjoyable. So I'm still working. I've been in the heavy truck kind of business, supply chain, mostly for the heavy truck business. I deal with a lot of the heavy truck manufacturers and provide brakes for them and do some different things. I've had different commodities that I've managed over the years, and a few different companies, to be honest. But things are good. I work from home. I have to go see the customer every now and then, but I stay busy. Life has been good. Like I told Frank, I says, my dad went to and played quarterback for Kansas, and we're getting ready to play Kansas. So kind of a football family. My mother's still okay. My mother's still around, and she's I call her the energy bunny. She's still mowing the lawn at 85 years old, and is doing well.
Wow.
And talk to her every day. So life has been very good to me. Beautiful wife, great kids, now a grandson. I don't think I could ask for much more. And I think that the discipline, the work ethic, the things that I got in Morgantown from Coach Nealon and all the coaches and even my teammates. You develop and grow as a human being, and Coach Nealon was always adamant about that. It wasn't just about what you did on the field; it was about how you carried yourself, what you looked like. If somebody didn't dress accordingly when we were going out of town for a game, you heard about it. I mean, if it wasn't up to his standard, you heard about it. So everybody, it's a growing experience. It helps you as a human being to be successful. I mean, you never quit. You always keep going. Life sometimes deals you some things that you got to deal with. You just got to buckle the chin strap up and keep going. So that's what you do. So,
all right, Frank, I will let you in there now. I keep taking up all the time. So if you have anything you want to wrap up here with Dave?
Well, I'm really, really glad that he brought up that his dad played at KU, because when he told me that, I go,
Yep.
Wow, that's extra meaning. And he said that's why he picked this Wednesday, because it's the week of the Kansas game. So that's a great intro to Let's Talk Kansas, WVU. And what we do, Dave, and you know this, is that I think I told you that each week we play for $10,000. Everybody puts $2,500 on the table. I don't think we've gotten your money yet, but what we do is
the checks in the mail.
There you go. What we do is just
it's just like Frank's power bill. He's got the check in the mail.
So what we do is we just lay out, each going in turn, your thoughts about the upcoming game, and then close.
Yeah.
And then
you mentioned that picking the scores, and it's been I've changed my scores 14 times, I think, since you first mentioned it. But I think that the offense has, the second half of the Pitt game, and actually the overtime part of the Pitt game in the fourth quarter, having to come back and it's going to build some confidence. It's going to build the pride, and they know they can do it now. It's not going to be a surprise. They can do it. So I'm a little bit, and since my number was 38, I picked WVU at 38, and I put Kansas at 31. Again, it's a high scoring game, but if you run 100 plays, we didn't run our offense. Even with Hostetler and everybody else, if we ran 45 plays to 50 plays, that was a lot. The running 100 plays or 95 plays, if you're gelling, you should be able to score some points. So my pick is going to be WVU 38 and Kansas 31.
Hey, Frank, I lost signal there just for a minute. I don't know if you discussed our winner from last week or not. I don't know who it was, and I don't know if you discussed that while I was off the air. But if you haven't, you may want to go ahead and mention that. Oh, of course he's muted now.
Did Frank win back-to-back? Hey, Frank, you mute.
Hey,
you're muted again, Frank.
Yeah, I think he muted on purpose. I think he did that on purpose because he didn't want to say who won, and so I'll just say it. No,
did you win?
Yeah, I won. I don't even remember.
All right, Craig.
I don't remember what my score was, but I think he told me that I was the closest.
Beautiful.
Way to go.
But
so three games, and we're 1-1-1.
That's right. And the way I feel is if you're not winning every week, then that's a good thing because last year you won every single week. But well, Mickey, go ahead and while Frank's trying to get back on, go ahead and give us your synopsis, your picks, and your score.
Well, I'm kind of like Dave. I've changed my score several times. Every time I'd research something new, I'd change the score. There's a lot of stuff going on behind the scenes in this game. It's really the first road trip for 80 some guys that have never traveled together, been on the road together, roomed together, been in a foreign stadium together. I mean, the Ohio game, you take a little bus ride over to Athens. This is totally different when you're taking an airplane 900 miles. And as an ex-player, and I'm sure Dave will agree with this, those sorts of things have a bearing. Things like the potential emotional letdown from the Pitt win could enter into this as well. And then you've got more of the statistical side of things. They got a great quarterback. They got a great offensive line. However, their defensive, their linebacking core in particular is very suspect. I think everybody at linebacker is starting for the first time. And I'm sure we'll be taking advantage of that. A couple other stats that I ran across, Kansas since 2022, anytime they had an open date, the following week they have a 5-1 record. The week after they have an open date in their schedule, and they had an open date last year, so they had 2 weeks to prepare. Some of the mistakes they made against Missouri. Missouri did put up 565 yards against them, and I think we certainly have the potential if we can run another 100 plays, as Dave mentioned. Just a lot of stuff going on in this game like that I think will contribute to the final outcome. But for a long story short, I've got WVU coming out on top, 28-24.
28-24. Frank, you're getting that down, I'm guessing. And I'll go ahead. Again, I don't know. I'm not sure if Frank, is your volume back yet?
I think so.
Okay. Yep, you're good. So you actually did mute on purpose when you were talking about last week's winner. So I'll let that slide. All right. No, I'll go ahead and do mine. I think that again, Kansas with the quarterback will give us a little bit of trouble. We've got to contain him. I think that's a key. Keeping him in containment. Our defense continues to get better. Our offense showed a lot of improvement against Pitt. Hopefully they'll continue to get better. I'm going to do something I've never, ever done since we've been doing this show. I'm going to go the other way. I'm going to pick it with my mind and not with my heart. You know where my heart is, and I'll be rooting my darndest to hoping I lose. But I'm going to pick Kansas 34-27. And I think they have a pretty explosive offense. I think we'll score points. Hopefully, that doesn't come to fruition, but I'm in it for the $10,000. So, all right, Frank, your shot. I can't hear him now. Find any problem there?
How about that? Okay, so, and I'm getting a terrific feedback here. Anyway, it's interesting that Mickey brought that up because I think that's important. And I mentioned this on the post-game show. I think it's unfair what the league has done. Kansas has that bye week early in the season, and then they play the next team at home. So they're 2 weeks. They don't have to go on the road. I think the league should have a rule that if you have a bye week, you can't come off the bye week and play at home. But be that as it may. What I did was I looked at what the Kansas area papers are saying about the game. They're not necessarily high on West Virginia. They don't think Mark Hall I think one of the Wichita papers talked about Mark Hill being shaky. That's the word they use, although they did say the defense is good. But I looked at the data from the NCAA, and for the life of me, I just can't understand if the handicappers are looking at those data and then making Kansas a 13.5 favorite. It just doesn't add up to me. And Mickey brought up the Missouri game. If you look at the Missouri game, they got out to a quick lead and then pretty much died on the vine. And they got, as Mickey gave the yardage numbers, they just got beaten up significantly. And Daniels wasn't able to make much of a difference. It was 21-6 Missouri, and they lost the game 36-10. So, they were outscored. 42-31. They were outscored 36-10 after they got ahead 21-6. So I don't know. I'm going to pick WVU 31-19. And I think the keys to the game is obviously the defense has to continue to play the way they have. I'm really high on our running back room. In fact, I would like to see the other running backs get some time here. We really haven't seen Dior Hubbard. I'd like to see him basically throw the entire running back room at him. You got Cannon Kaiser, highly thought of, coming from D2, and you've got Sincere Bowers. I think he had one run last week. That way you keep your running backs fresh. And I think we've got to use the short game, passing game, time of possession is really important. And I was thinking about sort of inventing this phrase, the 3 Bs, because each one of our tight ends, their name starts with a B. So I think those tight ends have to be active, use the short game, tight ends a lot, running backs, keep the ball away from Daniels. And as I said, I'm saying 31-19.
Okay. Well, Frank, we can bring back a new, not a new one, but an old term. We'll call them the killer bees. How about that? And we'll use them this weekend. I sure hope you are correct, all three of you. Anyway, as we run short of time here, we want to extend our thanks to Dave Preston, former Mountaineer great linebacker. Great stories tonight, and we really enjoyed listening to you. We appreciate you coming on and giving us some time, more than you know. Thank you so much, Dave.
Yes, thank you guys for having me. It's been fun and trip down memory lane for me. But thank you. It was great.
That's fantastic, and we hopefully we can get him back on somewhere down the road. That'll be a lot of fun. We'll look forward to that. And Frank, you want to go ahead and introduce next week's show, and then we'll sign her off for the evening.
Yeah, if you could throw that up, Darren. We're very, very pleased to have a name that everybody knows. Danny Kendra, quarterback in the mid-70s, will be with us next week, and we're looking forward to Danny sharing a lot of stories. A lot of people either don't know or may not remember. Another Danny Kendra played major college football. His son,
Yep.
I think our Danny Kendra is junior, and his son is the third, and he played at Florida State. Didn't come to West Virginia, so we'll talk with him about that. And of course, we've got the big TCU game coming up at the end of October. 1975 Peach Bowl team is going to be faded, and all the guys who played, Mickey will be there. All the guys who played under Bobby Bowden will be there, and of course John Antoniuk with his new book that just came out about Bobby Bowden. So Danny Kendra is going to be a great guest, and then a few weeks later after that, we're going to have Terry Bowden with us. So we're gonna go back to the 70s.
Yep, sounds like a lot of fun. Can't wait for that. It won't be any more fun than tonight, though, because tonight was enjoyable. Again, we want to thank Dave Preston for joining us. Mickey, thank you for all your input and insights. Always great to see you. Oh, by the way, Frank, Mickey, I'm meeting Mark Parsons tomorrow for lunch over in Beckley. So looking forward to that. He's up in West Virginia this week, so I'm going to meet up with him. Anyway, we appreciate everybody for tuning in to the Mountaineer Locker Room then and now here on the Voice of College Football and the New River Network. We appreciate you guys for tuning in. We always have a good time here on the show. And we enjoy doing this not only for ourselves, but for all the fans out there that love the Mountaineers. So, with that being said, we look forward to you on the post-game show Saturday. I think the game starts at 6. Frank, you can correct me. So I'm assuming we'll be on the air probably around 4:30 or so,
Yep.
4:30. And then 15 minutes to a half hour after the game, we'll do the post-game show. So we'd like for everybody to tune into that. You can tune into that on YouTube on the Voice of College Football. So we look forward to bringing you that as well. With that being said, Frank, Mickey, Dave, and Darren in the back room, we appreciate all of you, and we look forward to seeing you again on Saturday. Good night, everybody.